Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Authentic Info Podcast. I'm your host, Admire Sandele. The ANC Youth League leader, Colin Malaji, every time when he's afforded an opportunity to address the media, to address his people in any platform, he always speak about the EFF and he always speak about the EFF leader, Julius Malema. And I think it has turned into a trend that a lot of journalists or interviewers will always ask him questions that they think he is more interested in answering, which have a lot to do with the EFF other than the ANC Youth League, which the ANC just revived. Because we will know that the ANC Youth League of Colin Malaji is accused of being captured by the current Secretary General of the ANC, Fikile Mbalula, to target people who are against him or who he is against him. We saw this when he mentioned the likes of Pravin Gordhan, and we also saw this when the youth were in a battle with the current ANC chairperson, Gwede Matjatji. But for purposes of this segment, we're going to look at the reasons why this Colin Malaji always target the EFF and its leaders, always speak bad about the EFF, always tries to discredit the leaders of the EFF. What is the reason behind that? And what are the things that he normally says? And when we test them against what the EFF claims to represent, does he have facts or is just a flip-flopper? Because he accuses the EFF of being a flip-flopper. For example, in the land question, we know that both political parties, the ANC and the EFF, are not quite certain on what they want in terms of the land, because the ANC recently has pronounced in Parliament in the previous administration of President Ramaphosa, actually in the current administration of President Ramaphosa, that they are going to expropriate land, but they were targeting land that is idling. By that time, the EFF was supposed to jump in and vote with the ANC to make sure that the land expropriation that even the EFF speaks about comes into existence. But we saw the EFF saying that they don't want land that is in idle. They want the whole land that is in the hands of the minority, calling white people. So now land is land. And if we as Black South Africans fails to use the current land that is in idle to try and be productive, then what are we going to do with the land that is in the hands of the so-called minority? So these are some of the questions that he asked, to say if the EFF doesn't want to vote with the ANC when the ANC table a motion of land expropriation without compensation, but the land that is in idle. So which land are they talking about? And he calls them flip-flopping, because sometimes they speak about this, and then when when an opportunity arises where whatever they talk about needs to be implemented, they turn left. So another thing is that he says that the EFF, whenever there is a certain struggle, whenever there is an uprising, whenever people gather to try and address certain matters, the EFF is seen to go and neutralize such a revolution, hijack that mission, be the leader, and make sure that people don't get the solution of such. This is what the ANC Youth League leader says, that the EFF cannot be trusted. The EFF leader himself cannot be trusted. So my question is, how do you guys view this? What do you think about the allegations that he makes against the EFF, that the EFF is there to neutralize the anger of the people, to neutralize the revolution, so that the whites, who the EFF label as the minority, keeps in charge of the means of production that the EFF claims to be advocating for the release of them to be on the hands of black people. We have, for example, recently heard the EFF leaders saying that if people are going to fight with foreigners for job opportunities such as security guards, he cannot be part of that fight. Unfortunately, he cannot help them because he wants them to own the means of productions, which are your farms, your mines, your banks. Now, the question now is, how simple or how easy is it going to be for the EFF to transfer the ownership of banks and land to the people? Because they came recently to say the state must be the custodian of the mines and the banks and things like that. But we know that when they say state, they literally mean the government of the day. That if they push for this thing, that the state must be the custodian of the land, it means that by the time they take power, already they will be the ones who will be the custodian of these means of production. Because when we say state, we're talking about our leaders, we're talking about the government. And when we mean government, government is the people, by the people. But there are individuals deployed by these political parties who majority of them are captured to push a certain narrative. Now, another problem is that black political parties and political party leaders do not have money, and a revolution needs to be financed. Even the EFF leader himself, he does say that a revolution needs to be financed. Now, if those who owns the means of production are white people, it means that these are the people who have money. Regardless of the political ideology that they pursue, black politicians still need white people to fund their ideas. And in exchange to that, we know is capture. It's these white people still telling these leaders who they are making through financing from their pockets what to do and what not to do. So still, it's like a rat race. We will still remain in the hands of handlers. There is no leader out there without a handler. All these politicians, they talk to business people, and the most successful business people who have a lot of money to dispose are the minority white people in South Africa. And it's unfortunate that these political leaders still have to communicate with the guys who they are claiming that they want to destroy. And if you hear, for example, President Malema, he says that the ANC has been promising him positions ever since he was in the Youth League, and he refused, which means he is ambitious to just become, he doesn't want to die before he becomes the president of South Africa. And in him becoming the president of South Africa, he should have achieved anything or everything that he desired to be in life. And now my question is, what is it that the EFF cannot achieve before it is in power? Because every time when he speaks, he says that if people have a problem, they must call him today. He will come and fix that problem, which means that a leader can perform leadership duties regardless of positions. That is why we have rich people who are building schools, who are building houses for the disadvantaged, who are building community libraries. They don't occupy any position anywhere in terms of politics or political connections whatsoever. They do that based on what they have, and they get to help the people. So the people who wait to be elected leaders so that they can start showing leadership are quite questionable. So sometimes when the ANC Youth League leader calls the EFF a flip-flop, and he gives his reasons in terms of how they have been moving, because we know that recently the EFF is up for negotiations and discussions, and they are loosening their policy positions in all their principles. They are discussing on land issues, they are discussing on foreign investments, they are discussing, they want now to assure foreigners that they are not going to chase away investment and things like that. So they are going back to what the ANC is said to have sold out when it decided to discuss on a way forward back in the negotiations, because they realized that if they do things in rush or in hurry, it means that they might arrive in a conclusion where South Africans and black people in particular will be very poor and will lack opportunities forever. And then they sold out by keeping these business people around, keeping all these white politicians around so that they learn from them. And when they slowly took power, and then they had at least gathered enough experience to move forward. This is Authentic Info Podcast. I'm your host, Admiral Sandile. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell. Let us grow together. Thank you.